I saw you toss the kites on high above the birds about the sky, and all around I heard you pass like lady skirts across the grass. Oh, wind a-blowing all day long, oh, wind that sings so loud a song. I saw the different things you did, but always you yourself you hid. I felt you push, I heard you call, I could not see yourself at all. Oh, wind a-blowing all day long, oh, wind that sings so loud a song. Oh, you that are so strong and cold to blow, where are you, young or old? Are you a beast, a field, a tree, or just a stronger child than me? Oh, wind a-blowing all day long, oh, wind that sings so loud a song.
Sam Shoemaker wrote a poem, I Stand by the Door. I liken this poem to being the church. I stand by the door. I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It is the door through which men walk when they find God. There's no use my going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside. And they, as much as I, crave to know where the door is. And all that so many ever find is only the wall where a door ought to be. They creep along the wall like blind men with outstretched, groping hands, feeling for a door, knowing there must be a door. Yet they never find it. So I stand by the door. The most tremendous thing in the world is for men to find that door, the door that leads to God. The most important thing any man can do is to take hold of one of those blind, groping hands and put it on the latch that only clicks and opens to the man's own hand. Men die outside that door, as starving beggars die on cold nights in cruel cities in the dead of winter. They die for want of what is within their grasp. They live on the other side of that door. They live to find it. Nothing else matters compared to helping them find the door and open it and walk in it and find Him. So I stand by the door. Go in, great saints, go all the way in. Go way down into the cavernous cellars and way up into the spacious attics, into the vast roomy house, this house where God is. Go into the deepest of hidden casements of withdrawal, of silence, of sainthood. Some must inhabit those inner rooms and know the depths and the heights of God, and then call outside to the rest of us how wonderful it is inside. Sometimes I take a deeper look in. Sometimes I venture a little farther in, but my place seems to be a little closer to the opening. So I stand by the door. The people too far in do not see how near some are to leaving. Those too far in seem preoccupied with the wonder of it all. Somebody must watch for those who have just entered the door but would like to run away. So for them too, I stand by the door. I admire the people who go way in, but I wish they would not forget how it was before they got in. Then they would be able to help the people who have not even found the door, or the people who want to run away again from God. You can go too deeply in, and you can stay too long, and you can forget the people outside the door. As for me, I shall take my old accustomed place, near enough to God to hear him and know he is there, but not so far from men as not to hear them. And remember, they are there too. Where? Outside the door. Thousands of them, millions of them, billions of them. But more important for me, one of them, 2 of them, 10 of them, whose hands I am intended to put on the latch. So I shall stand by the door and wait for those who seek it. I had rather be a doorkeeper. So I stand by the door.
No. No. Well, we don't do that.
Okay. I gave myself a birthday present, as you can probably see. Yeah, I stand by the doorknob. That's Neil's the doorknob. The knob. I gave myself presents because I wanted to. I tried to call in and get permission, but I just did it. So there's that.
Whoa!
Wow.
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 Wow!
My gosh!
I forgot all these. Holy cannoli. Well, the topic. So Neil wanted me to he thought it'd be good if I actually made an edited video, but I don't really have the patience to do an edited video because it just takes too much time. I have work off now. I did work earlier, and so I did work. Now I have off, and Ann is out of town still. I do have to later today, do some cleaning up around the house. We have the Greater Regional Ingression Protocol tomorrow, and I'm very much looking forward to that. There's Ann. One moment. Just a Midwest evangelical, talking about God and life and other hypotheticals. No patriarch or any genitals are gonna stop the logos flowing theological. Amen, amen, amen. Amen, 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 amen. Oh, it's relation ontological, philosophy as well as lovely symbolology. 'Cause it's just you and me. We're fellowshipping and communing on the open sea. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen.
Whoa!
Wow.
Wow.
Wow!
Okay, I'm back. That was Anne. So now we have that settled. All is well. I didn't get in trouble. I did not get in trouble, so that's good. But I got all my media stuff back. And so there's like a lot of fun stuff here. Excuse me. Check this out. This is pretty cool. I like this. I always like that. All right, so I got a topic. I got the bubble back, which is very nice. I'm very, very grateful for that. And I want to talk about the title. The title is very good, I think. It should be interesting to touch on.
Now we're stuck on this stupid tower in the middle of nowhere. And I don't blame you, and now we're...
Okay. Pay attention, chat. Okay. So I'd like to have people come in and help if they want to play. The title is Egon, Iceberg, Prep Cook, Epistemology, and the Sliding Mountains. That's the title of this video. And then, so I was gonna, in my mind, if I could do an edit, or if I had the kind of patience and desire, like real desire to make an edited video, I would do it, but I just don't. Like, I just don't have it in me. It's like too much. And so right now, what I have is I have this title. And then Neil said, like, one thing that he does when he makes his videos, like his edited videos, is he has, like, you know, these things that he writes down. So I wrote down some stuff. I used my my old Midwest Jewelry notebook that we got. This was fun because I ended up look in the back here. It says, "Take your seats," and so I was putting this up. All right, Tim, I'll let you in a moment. I'll put this up at the Midwest Jewelry because I'm trying to get everybody to sit down, and I put myself up on the screen there. And so there's that. Welcome, Tim. How are you?
All right.
I have a very specific topics in mind. So we'll see what we can do with that. I'd like to kind of stay on track if we can. Now, I don't know if you have attention deficit disorder, but I do.
Yeah, I'm not even listening. What's the topic? I promise to only wax on your topic.
That's a nice shirt, dude. I like that. Yeah. What is that, bro? Is it a soccer ball with double horns?
No, it's like 2 golf clubs
Oh.
and a cup.
Nice. All right, so here's the topic. The topic is kind of hidden in the... Okay, let me ask you what the title means to you. The title is Egon, Iceberg, Prep Cook Epistemology, and the Sliding Mountains.
I don't know who Egon is. I don't use the word epistemology.
Okay, very good.
There's like a delay.
There's a delay?
For me, there is. Between it's like I'm watching a Korean movie with English dubbing.
Oh man. Okay, well, I don't know what to say about that.
I mean, maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
And I've them in. Better off.
Yeah.
And that and she'd fall and fun and joking relationship. It's not like it's always serious, but yes.
China.
Body parts. Yeah, well, and
And they drove him out of the army. I'm not going to do that. No, well, that's the way.
Heads. And you're significantly, aren't you?
Thing. So the stuff
People.
That I Right.
Speak.
Guess it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
Left hemisphere, which is like a hated the master, and it was the right hemisphere.
Hello. Okay. Iceberg, Egon Iceberg prep epistemology and the sliding mountains. I feel like if I start talking about this with somebody present, it's going to make me feel weird.
All right.
So
I can hop up.
Just stick with me though. Maybe you could play. Maybe that'll. Very loud. Or is it like kind of crazy sounding? Well, if I can come through or not. Yeah, keep playing. Did that work? Is that helpful? Welcome, Charlie. I'm doing mic check stuff. Because otherwise, yeah, otherwise it kind of gets weird. Seems good. about now? Does that work, everybody? I just need to see if I can, keep playing, and then maybe we could see what, maybe Ezra could help me out here. Hello. Fuck it, we're rolling with it. Okay. So do you know, let's see, if you uncheck auto volume and noise reduction and audio settings, I did that, and then I did turn his volume down pretty significant. Sub comment is prep cooking. And good name for the guitar riffing that typically dominates the stream. Prep cooking. Okay. So, okay. I just need to gather my thoughts for a second, because this is a thing that I was thinking about. So my understanding of the word epistemology, it means something like how you, what you perceive to be real, or how things are, how reality is, I think. So maybe I should look that up just for the proper definition, but I'm pretty sure it means something like how do you perceive reality? Epistemology, meaning how we know what we know. Yeah, how we know what we know. The branch of philosophy that studies the nature, origin, and limits of human knowledge. Okay, yes. Now, this is on my mind, Tim, because a lot of this stuff has been on my mind for a while, and PBK has been kind of tapping into some of this stuff, and as well as, he was doing that with Kale a couple weeks back, and then he brought it up again today in today's homeroom, and then which highlighted Grim Grizz's show, where Grizz was kind of talking about some of this. And I really want to talk about kind of like maybe a couple of different ways to kind of give examples of that. And I've done this a little bit before, where I've talked about flying saints and stuff like this. And so let's see, kind of the background for my thinking is when they're talking about how aliens are, people are talking about aliens and how, or UAPs or whatever, and the validity of those, and how is that real or is it not, and I think that what is real is very much a large portion of what we perceive to be real, or even what actually real things are shaped by kind of like a collective projection. Maybe that's a way of thinking about, like, a collective projection. And so there's and I think it's like, it might, for me, it might even be like fundamental to reality and the way that we perceive reality, or even the things that show up in reality, and the things that we agree on that are real. And So aliens is one thing, but like I think way before aliens was something like ghosts, and that's I think very much related, and very much connected to both aliens and ghosts is anything to do with spiritual reality, and I think Sheldrick, whatever his name is, the Sheldrick dude, I can't remember his first. I can't remember if that's it. Oh, Rupert. Yeah, very English name. Rupert Sheldrake has things called like talks about this concept or this theory that he has about morphic fields. Kind of like if you've ever been sitting there and you were thinking about a friend and then all of a sudden you haven't heard from them in like 20 years and they just call you out of nowhere. You know, stuff like that. And that's kind of like his concept of morphic fields is that we are very connected in ways that is not, let's say, apparent in a material epistemology, I guess. And so I'm thinking about this, and then there's other examples. I was on my way to work this morning and thinking about this, and one of the examples that popped into my mind was well, I always have all these different examples that pop into my mind about this. One of the examples I often point to is when Jesus is in Nazareth. He goes back to Nazareth and he tells them that I can't even do anything here because of your lack of faith. And what he doesn't say he won't do anything. He says that he can't do anything. And that to me kind of points to like this idea that our faith and what we believe is possible actually shapes the way that reality unfolds. And I think that it gets even more apparent or more powerful, or let's say the signal boosts even more when welcome Ezra, when there's a collective body to give it even more amplification or something. So I don't know if I'm making you nuts here. You kind of look like you're like, what the fuck is he talking about? It's okay. Stick with me. So
I'm reading something for work, but I'm also listening.
Oh, perfect. So Egon is from Ghostbusters, and Egon has this warning. Like, so in the movie Ghostbusters, the dude comes, one of the bureaucratic dudes from the city wants to shut down the Ghostbusters because there's toxic waste, or he's perceiving like there's this toxic waste. So he goes in and he wants to shut down the what does he call it? The containment unit. And Egon says, don't do that. Because if you do that, shit's going to bust out of there and you won't like what happens, right? And I was thinking about this idea of our shared epistemology, or our shared epistemological framework. And the more that it gets kind of like shifted around, the more like I think the less we understand of what might break out of like our materialist contamination unit. You know, because like the question is, okay, so like I was talking with Neil about it, or if people have questions like, so what do you think will happen if we were to have like a disclosure day or something, or what do you think, how far do you think it can go if we accidentally push the bounds of epistemology to where the whatever, the sky opens or the ground opens and then something comes out, you know, like, and I think it's like, first of all, I don't know what the limits of impossibility are. Is the first thing. So that's the iceberg. So Egon's iceberg warning is like, be careful. Now the prep cook thing came from there's this, I can't remember the guy's name. I wrote all this
so
down.
Like it's not lettuce.
Iceberg, no, not lettuce. But it could be part of the cosmological burrito. But It's more of like because what we see now is just the thing that we're hitting, right? But there's so much underneath that could come up, right? That's the iceberg analogy or whatever. So like the contamination unit in Ghostbusters is like the iceberg. There is, you just see the door on this thing, but you don't know what's on the other side of the door. That's the iceberg, basically. This is all crazy. I promise I don't really think that I'm schizophrenic, so please don't worry. I'm not going to give anybody any advice. I'm just kind of laying this shit out. Okay.
I gotta call somebody for work. I'm sorry to hop, but it's a very interesting topic.
Cool.
You're the best.
Thanks for playing. Okay. Got a little more to lay out here, Ezra. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Okay. The prep cook thing was there's a book called Don't Sleep There's Snakes, and PBK has talked about this in the past. The guy that's he's like a language guy, and he was working as a missionary, and he brought his family. They went to South America or something, and he was like studying with those people who are trying to study and be a missionary. And he ends up like waking up one morning, and the whole village is like going ape shit, and they're like freaking out. And he's like, "What's going on?" And the guy and his daughter go and follow one of the village people, not the music group, but the village guy, to like the shore. And he's like, "Be careful, there's the god." And he's like pointing across the stream that like there's this god over there. And the whole village is freaking out, and they see it, but his family, but this missionary and his family don't see it at all. Right. And so that's the whole kind of like this idea of what happens in a closed system, like let's say a closed epistemological unit, like a village, right? They can maybe conjure up all sorts of things. And one of the things that's very apparent to me that has happened in the West is the Manhattan Project. Right. So you have like a very small, closed community of scientists who are very interested in trying to prevent the world from falling into chaos. And they're very pointed at this. I'm guessing that they weren't listening to a lot of outside sources. They probably weren't watching TV. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't even be interested in that sort of thing, but they were very interested in solving this problem. And what happens is they're working on this for years, and it's a very small community, and they're all driven and tied together by a particular belief, and they actually do something that is impossible, which is like split an atom, and like that's just completely, and we look at it now and we're like, yeah, of course you could do that sort of thing, but it's not that simple, because there are places of people out there are trying to do it and they still can't seem to do it. So it's not that simple, right? What they've done is, I think because of their shared epistemology, they were able to unleash this kind of weapon. Another one is maybe a really small version of this. I think about Jack Parsons, and I don't know if you're familiar with this guy, but he was like, they call him like the inventor or the godfather of rockets, of rocket technology. His name is Marvel. That was his first name, but he changed his name to Jack Parsons. And he spent time with a small cohort of people. He wasn't officially like educated. He was kind of a self-taught guy. And he was spending time with like L. Ron Hubbard. And L. Ron Hubbard like took his money and his wife. But before all that, these guys were spending time in the desert, and they were taking like peyote, and that's where he said he discovered these equations that would allow him to access rocket capabilities. right? And so I think about that, and like, and maybe the drugs has something to do with kind of if there's a very small cohort of people way out in the desert, they're away from everybody else, they're very interested in a particular idea, they stick their minds to it, plus they amplify that with drugs, and then who knows, like how it kind of opens up the reality, the possibilities of reality. And so now we have rockets. So again, I understand this all sounds like ape shit, crazy shit. I get that, but I don't know what the limits are of this. You know, and you and I right now in this very moment are downstream of a shared epistemology, right? And we're like, I'm sitting in a house that has, I don't even know how many light bulbs are turned on in this house at this moment, which is a miracle. Like the fact that we have electricity is kind of like a really strange thing. And and we have the internet, and we have, I'm in a very safe place where there's like not people killing each other in the streets. There's and part of that safety is kind of keeping me locked into a particular kind of epistemology, right? Because it keeps me safe. Like I really believe in that, and so that's the idea. And then this idea of like you can move mountains, right? That's another kind, and Grizz pointed to that.
Yeah. I think about I've been thinking about all of this a lot. And I have strong intuitions about it. You know, like I'd have to technically agree that I don't know what the limits are. Like that's for sure, because I'd have to like reach the limit, I guess, to know,
Kind of thank God we don't know what the limits are.
Yeah, maybe I don't even want to know. But like I kind of this is one way I think about it, okay? So like you got material, and then you got the immaterial, and then these come together, and that makes reality. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And so this makes sense to me, and this makes sense to me too. With like perhaps the immaterial could be thought of as like patterns, which are not themselves material. And then you got the material instantiation of those patterns. And when those come together in a structural functional organization or whatever, then that's kind of what we mean by real. But material things on their own, I'm not sure that they are real completely, in the way that the immaterial, like it's kind of like when they do the abstract math, and it's like it might not actually apply to our universe. It's not physics. It's like abstract math. It's like, well, is that real? I think that that's like real in about the same way that you get down to the, fluctuations of you get down to, are quarks real? And it's like it gets, in our materialist frame, we tend to think that the smallest thing is real. I think that's totally arbitrary. You could just as easily say, well, the only thing that's real is actually, the one, not the many. But then you'd have the same problem. So I think the one and the many together is real.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think a lot of what, like, I think the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems maybe ever, like sometimes I think maybe it's the only problem in a way, but it's a big problem, is equivocation.
Mm-hmm.
And, equivocation between these different levels of reality. So you gave some examples like, you're talking about the Manhattan Project, these other things, and their snakes and the God. I think about this with the moon landing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to be more of a materialist in my framing. And then I thought, these people who think we didn't go to the moon, I thought, I guess I thought we went to the moon, and it was obvious that we went to the moon, Probably because I saw like the footage, especially of the later moon landings. The first one, there's not a lot of footage at all. But like the later ones, there's some stuff where I'm like, well, it's better than Hollywood, so maybe. But then I realized that even if we went to the moon physically, right? We did not land on the moon symbolically. Like the moon has a meaning symbolically for all of human history. And the idea that you can like shoot up there and like land on and conquer the moon, the symbol, I think is probably impossible. And certainly did not happen. So then you get this thing where like spiritually, we didn't land on the moon, it's a hoax. And then you can get down to like, well, materially, did we land on the moon or not? And it's like, well, then that can be really hard to discern because you got, like your conspiracy people might believe that, it's all a lie that we landed on the moon. And then you get down to like, well, what's the real evidence that I have access to myself that we went to the moon, And then you could kind of, it gets pretty hard to understand, to know epistemology, what's going on, like what actually happened materially. So it goes into trust and who do you trust and what, how likely do you think it is and how likely do you think it is that it could have been lied about and that we didn't and all this stuff. And I kind of have shifted away from caring so much about certain questions like that when I think, well, not maybe caring, but my point is, regardless of whether we physically went to the moon, we spiritually did not go.
I think we undoubtedly only, at the very least, we actually spiritually did go. At the very least, that's what did happen. Because, and I think
I think that's the hoax for me.
Well, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that it can't flip.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't mean that it can't be, let's say.
Well, that's my whole point. That's actually my whole point, is the equivocation. It's about, are we talking spiritually now, or are we talking physically?
Oh, we're talking spiritually, right?
Because what happens is we get confused between those. So it's like as soon as we start talking about whether or not we materially went, then we're like stuck with all these things spiritually.
Yeah.
And if the spirit can change, it's like, So anyway, that's like my framing for a lot of this stuff. And then a lot of what goes on, I see as really connected to how magic works.
Yeah.
Because the way that magic works, and when I say magic, I mean like a magician. Like, and I feel like as somebody who studied film and like the arts, I understand the magician from that frame. But it's like the way the magician works is kind of by equivocation. And it's by doing things in the shadows. It's like, I saw the person in half. And you don't know how I did it. You don't know the reality.
Yes.
Be the how, right? You just know that it looked like that happened.
But there's something very powerful about what happens between, let's say, that particular magic trick. Okay, because that's something that you, the magician, and me, the viewer, are sharing in a particular kind of frame, and it's a kayfabe frame, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so like that's the game that we're playing, right? And it's a celebration, I think, of realistically that magic of that sort. I think is like a celebration of, let's say, mystery, right? It's what it's supposed to be. It's not like you're actually tricking me. It's that we're playing a game together where we're playing pretend. Now there's another level of magic, right? Where it's like, I don't know that you're playing a trick on me. That's a different kind of magician.
Well, I would say though that it always is both.
Okay.
Because it's like if I, if I interview all the people, like, because then like that, what controls whether or not it's kind of that celebration of mystery is whether we're all in on it and we all kind of know and we're all like participants in the kayfabe, knowingly, and it's almost never that. Like just magicians are almost never that. It's some people say, "Oh, there's a mystery here. There's some trick to it. If I knew the trick, I'd be less amazed."
Yeah.
But some people, they believe that something miraculous did happen.
Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about that specific instance of you go to a magic show.
Yeah.
Guy has the woman in the box and the guy in the box. I think everybody in the audience, except maybe the children, know that this is and that's very important. That's a whole nother level of like.
Well, see, I think we don't necessarily know, and I think that we also like it affects like if we want to believe and like celebration of mystery itself is questionable because like mystery has a role, I think, a place in the hierarchy of being. And it shouldn't be elevated from that place, And so all this stuff is going on with like the magic show. And I think it's so clear that that frame is actually really helpful for discerning when things are magic. So this is like one of the reasons why I personally am very unconvinced by like the UFO footage that the government has released, where it's like pixelated cameras. These are cameras that I don't know how they work. I do not know how they generate an image. I've seen like guys online who like try to recreate the phenomenon and go, well, this is how you could get the same looking thing with a balloon, or whatever.
Right.
So it's like, I'm not saying that they're necessarily telling the truth, but it's just like somebody shows you a blurry thing. It's just the difference between I'm sitting in the room with an alien and I shake hands and I'm talking to the alien and like, well, here I have like, look, it's hidden.
Right.
But there's an alien in there. I'm like, that's a magic trick. That's how magic tricks work. I get out here with a box and I could tell you all kinds of stuff about what's going on in this box.
Yes.
And you're developing a whole relationship with what could be in this box. And I'm like,
now you're getting to what I want to talk about, which is because I want to get to the other layer. I want to get to some of the kind of the mechanics of what our part is, right? Which is I do think, so you said the immaterial, that my mind went to consciousness immediately. That consciousness itself is the immaterial. And so we're the immaterial, and then what did you say? What was the one underneath?
Well, yeah, I just thought, just immaterial and material.
Yeah.
Immaterial. And then together, that's going to make the real.
Right. And yes. So
you could also think of it as like. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was saying, you could also think of it as like sometimes I think of it as almost like the hyper real.
Yeah.
And the, unreal or something like that. And then, it's like, they're layers of reality.
Are the okay? don't say it, but like when I say basket, you know, the image that just showed up in your head, or whatever it is that just showed up in your head, is that material? You know, I don't think that's the immaterial, right? And I think that has, let's say if if we felt a dire need to make basket real, right, because of whatever reason, and it like actually I think it also has to do with care, because we mentioned care. I think care has a lot to do with what goes on with this kind of immaterial, with consciousness. So it care makes the thing. So okay, care or faith, I guess. So we have this immaterial consciousness. We say basket. We need something. I need something like a basket. I don't know what it is, but and then something happens where we work together, and we make this, and there comes. We find the material, and we can make this happen and build a basket. And because like maybe whatever, it wouldn't be an arbitrary reason for that to need to happen.
It's like there's a telos that requires the basket, and we instantiate this pattern of basket on Earth,
and
it becomes real.
Right. And so like I think of like I don't really care about aliens either. I actually don't care at all. Like I just don't. I think when I was younger I did, and that was a fascinating thing for me for a long time. But I don't really care at all, other than to kind of use it as an example in our discussion here, trying to get to kind of like how.
Yeah, I'm like kind of upset a little bit. Not against anybody, or that I have a problem with what anybody else believes, but just for myself, it bothers me when like that aliens, the discussion and understanding of the aliens, whatever, seems to have all this equivocation, and then I just worry about that, because it's like you'll notice that we start talking about like alien intelligence in the same breath that we're talking about the idea that there are bodies of extraterrestrials on Earth.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we got all kinds of alien intelligences.
Yeah,
you know, like the internet's an alien intelligence. The
yes.
AI's an alien intelligence. Like we got alien intelligences. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Kind of like once we start kind of building like a mythology and a narrative around these kinds of immaterial ideas, for whatever reason, that starts to kind of like, I do wonder what happens downstream of that. Okay, because then what gives something a body, I guess. You know, again, looking at like the Manhattan Project, right? Somebody had, I don't even know how they came up with this idea of let's split an atom. Like that's such a ridiculous, that's such a completely absurd mythological statement that became reality, supposedly. Because there are people who don't believe that actually happened either. So that's really weird too. But so there's that. And then one more thing, like when you mentioned children, that kind of was like, or when children got brought up, I was like, holy shit, how much do children's consciousness shape the epistemological reality, outflowing of reality, right? And how much more power do they have over than we have, you know? So I don't know. I know this sounds such like a ridiculous conversation, but I love this conversation because what I worry about, I think, is and actually it's funny if you look at the Ghostbusters movie, like there are these scientists who are applying science to wrangle these kind of like liminal beings, right, and put them back into the box called the containment unit, right, and then some like egoist bureaucrat says, you guys, he's not getting what he wants out of it, so he wants to get something out of this, and he goes in and because whatever reason, and he flips the switch and lets all the shit out of the box. What, I wonder about that, but I think about it almost in reverse, kind of like what kind of good can come out of that, right? Because I think it is kind of scary to think of the liminal becoming material, right? The conscious goes liminal, gets some sort of power, and becomes material, right? And I don't know. I mean, this is really weird. This is a really weird conversation, but yeah.
I've been hearing what you guys are saying, and it's very interesting because I know PBK, he put in, he referenced Steve and Kale's, how they do their update like once every 2 weeks or so, and it's like they're prepping us, they're getting us prepared. So the myth is right, the what we're beginning to feel is like they disclosure, right? Is the movie. Right.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to reveal this reality. And one of the things that I remember hearing from the conversations in the space is, as far as how many times have we been blindsided in general, where we have to pivot and we have to accept this new reality, emphasis on reality, right? What we seem to perceive what reality is, and sometimes even what chipping away at religion. But so the first example, as far as where we had to change how we think reality works, is when we discovered the invisible. And I'm gonna pitch it like this: these invisible monsters that were hurting us and causing us to die, and we because they were invisible, we couldn't fight them, and we couldn't prevent their entering our bodies. So we understood that there was something going on, right? We were getting sick and some people died, and so we thought that it was caused by something else. And then eventually someone discovered the microscope, and they saw that those things that were hurting us and killing us are actually not invisible. We cannot see them, but they're there. And suddenly they're these beasts are small, yet they can take us out. So now we have antibiotics, and they're no longer, you know what I mean? So that perception of reality, right? Germ theory changed. The way doctors had to do their thing had to change to fit the new reality. Now, you mentioned, I think, Ezra, you mentioned the immaterial to the material. And I think quantum physics, what we've been discovering, or so we hope that that's what they're discovering. Because remember, they tell us we have to trust that that's what the science reveals. Because what the heck do I know about quantum science, right? How am I going to study that on my own? So I have to take their word for it. So as far as what we seem to think reality is, space-time, travel, light, gravity, it's now supposedly getting turned on its head. And it's like, oh, the minute we started questioning that perception, we could picture something different without those limits. And ergo, we have the cellular phone that's with the apps and all these things, because they're written in code in a language, and like all that stuff is really hard to comprehend as far as how they function, right? How does that piece of silicon and plastic, how does that function? And it's because at some point in time we had to question the boundaries, and someone says, well, what if we're wrong? What if we can go further? Now, where does this affect religion? Because we hear these stories in the old stories, like the Tower of Babel, and there they were describing were people that were not religious. And I'm reading between the lines and I'm paraphrasing, so I could be wrong. That they're in it together and they're going to accomplish great things, but they don't really have God in mind, right? They want to be known and renowned and status, wealth, whatever it is. And God has to stop them. So there's that warning, because I think there are a few times where God intervenes. The Tower of Babel is one where God intervenes, and we get Babel, right? The different languages, and then we also get another story. This is not really with technology, where Sodom and Gomorrah, where our desires and what we were all about, our attention, our desires, whatever, it was all gone rogue. No longer thinking about God, so God had to intervene. And just hearing this week, just hearing all the different spaces and all the concerns and all the worries about the AI and the robotics and the gene manipulation, the nanotechnology, the drones, now aliens, and our perception of what reality is, and our ability to persuade one another, our ability to you mentioned the magician, right? The minute the trick is revealed, it loses the spell, right? A magic trick.
No, but what it does is it casts a new spell.
That might be right, but what I'm saying is
that's why I think everything that you've already mentioned up to this point is all in the same category. And there's actually there may actually be no other category than the shared I guess, yeah, a shared vision of reality. And I don't know how better to say this. I mean, I'll let Michael in here too. But it's like when you open up, like you said, we got to get the monster thing right. Like there's monsters and they're but we find out they're germs. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like we just gave it a new name, or we saw something. And we like, and who knows how much of what we saw or needed to see was brought into a new frame of reality and understanding because of our shared projection. I do think there's some sort of kind of liminal projection that goes out and makes reality happen. I mean, I think almost life itself is this, right? It's like it's how can you deny life? So we all agree that life is, and here we are,
right?
And so I know this is kind of, I don't even know what to make of this conversation, other than I think it's something to do with, well, let's see what Michael, what do you have to say about this? I'm sure you have something to say about this.
I think it's very interesting.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
I got a feeling he'll be back.
Yeah,
must have lost the signal.
Yeah. There's and part of the problem too, I think, is, and it was something I heard in Skojak's conversation with PBK. Sometimes what happens when we make the church the highest, okay, rather than God being the highest, is
I don't know.
It's okay. What can happen, I think, is sometimes the church becoming the highest thing, or the highest instantiation of reality. We can kind of get off track and slowly wander down this other path and not even know we're doing that. And I think we could do that with the Bible, or whatever the thing is that isn't God, right? Yeah. So yeah. So what's up, Michael?
Yeah, so the way that I've been thinking about this stuff a lot lately is, well, so I've been at Nietzsche, and like, I think because he's somebody that obviously he had a lot of negative stuff to say about Christianity, but most of it was true about the bad forms of Christianity that he was actually familiar with. And he even said that. He said, like, the only real Christian that ever lived is Jesus, and everybody else is like failing at it. But there's he has this, this thing of like, he's so mad at people for like having this slave morality or having this like accepting these narratives essentially. And he's like, you're meant for greatness or whatever. And really, as I read the Bible and look at it, I think that's in there. Like the interesting thing about Jesus is it says in that he did not consider God equality, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped. And I think that Jesus is unique in that aspect. Like that's part of our sin nature in some sense. Well, let me say it this way. That drive that we have it's not part of our sin nature. It's part of what it means to be created in the image of God, is that we are meant for theos, that we're supposed to be arriving there because we have sinful nature approaching the wrong way. And Christ comes to redeem that aspect in some sense. He sets the pattern, because like the problem with Adam was he wanted to grasp the fruit, to grab equality with God, but he didn't want to face the consequences, which is death. So it's like, I think if Adam had just said like, yes, I did it, and didn't blame Eve and all that, like maybe God would have like killed him, and then he just would have like resurrected right away or something. Like, I don't know, like, but so it's like that, not like you can't separate people are like drawn to death or whatever, but anyway, but we always create these like systems and all these things because we're trying to become like God, but they have a lot of power when we're building them and when it's like accelerating and we're seeing it. But then as soon as it like really becomes clear that like,
oh, we lost Michael.
Okay. Okay. Did we get off track, do you think? Maybe I just lost track.
Oh, you're muted, Alex.
So I'll try to bring it back to what you guys were talking about as far as because eventually what the movie, the thing that most people are talking about or having an opinion about is the movie, because the movie and the government and the conspiracy as far as, are UFOs real, right? And the implication is like, well, even if they are going to reveal, even if there's something to see, even if, so there's a even if, so there's it'll one way or the other, you're forced to think about it, you're forced to dismiss it, but before you dismiss it, you had to think about it. It had to affect you in some way, shape, or form. Now, what I was going to try to say is, like the magician, their elaborate show, performance, and delivery is all contingent on you not knowing what's going on and the distraction, right? They need both. They need to guide your attention somewhere so that something else could be done behind the scenes. And that's what I'm saying is like, maybe there's something to the whole UFO thing, whether it's true or not, or maybe there's a chance that it's the magician's trick that is just enough so while we're being distracted to look here, there's something else that's going to.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what's happening at all. I think it's actually, in order for the show to work, you're entering the show. So you're agreeing to enter the show. There's an agreement that takes place between the magician and the person watching the show. That's different than let's say deception altogether. Okay. Or let's just say like a thief or something. That's a completely different thing. Like, let's say, unless of course the magician invited me to his show so I could watch his show, and then he has a gang of robbers that are taking the shit at my house. Now that's a completely different kind of thing. Okay. Now I don't think that they're doing a thing. So look over here while there's this other thing down over here happening. I don't think that's what it is. I think what they're doing is saying, look over here, look over here, look over here. look over here, look over here. And now this becomes what you see. You know, and it's not, I don't think it's some other thing. I think that other thing that we're talking about is kind of like a very old 20th century kind of frame where they say, look over here, and then they're doing something else over here. That's kind of like something I think that's very popular conspiracy theory. Okay. And I don't think that's actually, I don't think that's the case. I think it's probably more like hiding directly in plain sight, right? And what they're trying to do is, I think the real wizards know this, that the world is really shaped by our collective vision. It's not just self-deception. It's just like what you need to be. Like, I was thinking about this. Okay, so the guys are all those disciples are in the boat. Okay, why is Jesus walking on water? And why can they see him walking on water? And I wonder, I just wonder how much their shared desire and need for Jesus to not drown is helping even Jesus walk on water. Now, again, I think it's something like when Jesus goes back to Nazareth and he says, I can't even do anything here because there's such a lack of faith. He doesn't say that he won't do anything. He says that he can't. So that to me says something about the kinds of participation that God calls us to, or something like that.
Yeah.
I would, like, I feel like I probably, like, what I hear from that, which is my own, perhaps my own projection, or what I'm afraid I'm hearing, is that it's a little bit too much like reality. Because, like, you could draw this picture and you could say, like, well, it's put the collective, imaginal here, and say that it actually makes the other two or something like that. But I don't think that that's the case. Like, I think that like, I think it's both and. Like, if you put it back to, like, the magician, like the just the trick of sawing somebody in half, like, I don't think that there's any amount of, like, our collective belief of the viewers that is gonna, like, make it so that they were actually cut in half and put back together materially without, like, some weird, like, I think that there might be, I think that, it's kind of funny because, like, today you could have a surgeon and he probably could separate the person and put them back together, and we could say, there's no trick.
Yeah, but Peter cut that one guy's ear off.
I'm saying there might be ways to separate somebody and put them back together, but I don't think that our, like, projection is what makes that happen.
Well, no, okay. I'm not saying that's what makes it happen either. I'm saying that it might be something like both and both not, right? So it might be more like a river or something.
Okay, so I have another wild idea out there, and I could be off. So we all know what the Uno card game is, right? And sometimes when you're when you still have a lot of cards left, and then the people that you're playing with, they're down to one or two, you're like, okay, this is now time to throw the draw 4, right, or something like that. And what if the people that are ruling, what if they seen their grip loosened? Because remember, the new atheists, all that movement was catching fire, and people were eating teeth, and they were eating whatever mode of reality they were giving, they were eating it up, right? That's why people were saying 2 + 2 is 5, and all the mass people were in, right? and then they began to lose control over that because they, according to the story, they had always supposedly known about the aliens since like 1940s or 1950s. So they've always had that. It's like the Wild 4 card. They had it. They just needed the, they were saving it for the right time because like, oh, down to one card, I better throw it now, right? And maybe because they've been losing grip on the sheeple, they're like, it's time to get them back to listen to us and put a new spin on what reality. And then before you know it, it'll be 2 + 2 = 5, and they'll eat it up all over again. That's another hypothetical tinfoil hat conspiracy there. That maybe what is the while eat draw 4 move.
Yeah. So okay, go ahead.
And then when it's not useful to have it be a secret, then you can always reveal it, and you get a new you're ahead of the game or whatever that way. So
well, I don't think that like it's full on. I don't think that it's full on liminal ontology making things. I don't think that's the case. I think that there's actually the garden or whatever God's the earth that God has given us to live on here, and there are laws at play or whatever. It's a reality but I do think that there are things that shift. Like there are things that can shift the way that the possibilities. Right? Again, I mean, like Jesus healing the guy's ear, or whatever the thing is, or walking on water, or turning the loaves and the loaves and fishes into, like, all those different things are kind of like demonstrations of something greater that are kind of like let's say stubborn or fear-based epistemology will only let us see so much because it's scary, right? And so like we've been able to use a thing like science, a mythology like science, to be able to wrangle a more safe world for many people. Not everybody, but but there are some shit that gets lost in the mix when that happens, right? There are trade-offs that take place.
You know what? The Prestige. If book is much better. Are you guys hearing me? Okay. I don't know if I'm going to drop off again.
You were roboting.
Basically, the gist of it is the Prestige is a better book than the movie.
Right. I heard that part.
Yes.
Well,
there is something. I'll try to be real quick. Jesus did say, I would like to tell you more, but you can't handle it now. So he didn't reveal everything. And he also taught in parables, and they were like saying, what are you doing that? He's like, well, and then he quotes Isaiah, not everybody will hear, not everybody will understand. So it's like by design. And also he's teaching us, he's given us a new sense of reality, but only if you're willing to accept that reality, or if you want to align your purpose with them, he will reveal to you. It's just like he tells his disciples, I no longer call you servants anymore. I call you friends, because he's revealing, he's showing them more stuff. So he's like no longer servant but friends, and he also says that you will do greater things. So there is a reality out there that is quite out there, beyond that we can handle. You know what I mean? If we are prepped for that.
Yeah, I think I have a response to the mustard seed thing, which is like the way that I hear the story is it's very important that it's like a mountain is going to like move into the sea or something like that, that you can move a mountain, because mountains move. They do move. They move. He didn't say with the faith of a mustard seed, you can turn into a bug and fly to the moon. And, it was something that does happen. Mountains do move, right? But it's like the idea that you could make them move seems strange. And so I tend to think about it, this might be heretical the other way, where it's like too scientific, but I tend to think about it like, yeah, because if you're really in touch with God, if you're really in touch with the immaterial, if you're really in touch with the true reality of where material and immaterial come together, then you know that it's basically like, I'm going to stand there and go, this mountain's going to move into this ocean, and it'll happen. And a materialist standing there will go, well, that mountain was going to do that anyway. We looked at all there were all these causes that led to the mountain doing that. You didn't do that. And it's like, you don't get it, bro.
Yeah,
there's
also some shared vision of reality between the materialist and the non-materialist in that instance, I think. And so, like, again, I think I don't know how much of an influence we actually have on the way that reality unfolds. Now, I don't know, like, if for some reason we were able to be hypnotically convinced of a certain, like let's say like, well, I mean, a whole nation did this. A whole nation did this in Germany, right? They were able to be completely hypnotized and moved, and it changed the reality of millions of people. So, I mean, I think they're very connected.
Change the reality. It's like, I'd put that in scare quotes, right? It changed the reality.
Yeah, and I think that's what Israel was talking about. But I think as far as the mustard seed growing so much that you can even throw a mountain into the sea, but that's symbolically speaking, and we're never given a reference as how long it might take. So Christianity, as starting out very small, is kind of like a sect, and nobody cares about it, nobody knows about it, and yet it becomes this huge thing that overtakes the world. So it's a metaphor, but we're not giving it specific as to how it's going to throw, how is it going to do it, and how long is that's going to do it. But that is, like I said, a guess, because we're not really giving specifics. We're giving like a metaphor sometimes.
Well, and I think, miracles happen all the time, and it's kind of hilarious because even the materialist will be like, they'll be like somebody who has some disease where they're like terminal and they should absolutely die, and then they'll have a miraculous recovery. Even the materialist might say this recovery was miraculous, but then you go, well, was it a miracle? And they're like, well, no, because there's just some material reality to what happened. And it's like, to me, it's just like, you don't get it. Like, that's what miracles are.
So the one thing about scientists is that they always think they're right, but if you go back centuries, the science will disprove the science of back then, and yet they were for certain that was the reality. They couldn't be wrong, and yet science proved them wrong. So even using science to prove science is wrong, and just give it a minute, and then whatever notion that they're so staunch about will be wrong later. It's just that they're just not there in their understanding.
Yeah, I think what I'm pointing to is something so very subtle. So very subtle. Oh, Dr. Lenny died. Man.
Who's Dr. Lenny?
Lenny Time? Is that who you mean? Whoever it is, I mean, it sounds like Time. Oh man. Let's take a break. I'm gonna get some sort of break here. Well, Miss Lenny, if you guys want to know who he's talking about, you can go. I think there's some conversations with Grizz. You guys can look into. Okay. Yep, the one and only. Yeah. So the things are so very subtle, and so when Upseer brings this up, this kind of like changes our whole frame for a moment, right? It's like our whole frame of attention into the care that we have for somebody else and or others, and I think that's where that's where the thing changes. That's where reality really kind of like in the most subtlest of ways. And
I agree. Like, I think that I think this thing about how much we can change reality is a big open question. And I think that my only like negative reaction or something or concern is that we equivocate that reality with material reality.
Yes.
But the reality that's material and immaterial together is absolutely this thing that, is it's unclear.
I don't think it can be gamed. And that's the mistake that I think evil will make, is that that evil has tried to make, is that whatever this is that we're talking about, this very ineffable reality, it tries to game that, and it's not gameable. But I think that's the problem with powers and principalities, is that they can have an influence and get us to play ourselves in some way, But then sometimes like faith does incredible things. I think about like there's that person that run that mile in like a record time. It was like completely unbelievable. This could never happen, and bang! Once that happens, like it's happening all over the place, right? Or like the telephone, or the light bulb being invented in like several places all across the globe at the same time, or calculus or something like this. All those things are so very subtle, and I think they're pointed at. They arise out of care and need and desire to and love. I think. I don't think it's malevolence, right? It's like, oh, we can actually do something good in the world. And I think that's kind of something to do with it. And
to me, like
it's so subtle.
To me, Babel is like people trying to do something purely materially. And I think it's even why it's the idea of this tower. It's like you're building up from the material, through your reality, and then you bump up against the immaterial. You bump up against the fundamental patterns of reality, and the fundamental pattern of reality is like, I don't, care about
the moon?
What you're trying to do.
Yeah, the moon, basically.
Well, yeah, or you can say it's God. It's like God doesn't care that you think you can do anything with material reality, because you can't do anything with material reality. You can only do things in real reality, which is the material and immaterial together. And I think that that's what you're talking about, because some of these things, like the spirit with which you do the thing and the telos behind the thing, have a huge impact on the thing. And like that's also why towers fall, and that's
Well, I think you're getting to the importance of this whole situation. So as far as do they want us to be looking? Yes, it's obvious that they want us. They want our attention pointed at something, but as far as what change, or how do you change people? How do you change their feelings? How do you change the way they think? How do you change the way they perceive what is important? That's a different conversation. But if we lose track of what is really important, we have lost, right? If I lose, so I'm a father. If I lose what my role is as a father, and I just get this impulse and I quit my job and I move away, and it's like, what about your kids? Kids? I have kids. You know what I mean? It's like, so if I forget my role, if I forget, scale it up. If I forget what I'm here for, I already lost. And maybe this whole big distraction is the ultimate of way, because I know that they're implying, the director's implying that even, the Christians are going to have to, they're going to have to deal with, basically saying, this is as far as Christianity is going to go. I'm paraphrasing here, right? This is, and this is going to be such a big challenge that, but so bad, too bad. And so, and it's like I said, my notion on that is like the draw forward, because they're losing grip, and people are turning back to religion, or you know what I mean, and they're like, no, we got to take it back. And it sounds like they're going to take it back to some degree. They're going to take that back.
I'm not normally a fan of trolley problems, but here's one. Okay, a society that is caught under the avalanche of the meaning crisis and is completely bought into nihilism, or a society that wakes up to aliens. You pick. And I know what I would pick. Because I think, like...
These are the same picture meme?
That's funny. I like that answer. It's very good. But what I like about the, let's say, the nihilists waking up to a world of possibilities is at least there's hope, right? And that's why I think, like, you get enough of that going around, it's inevitable where they come out of isolation and start meeting people, and that's where then whatever the possibility, you're like, oh shit, it wasn't aliens, it was Jesus the whole time or something. You know what I mean? So I'd say, like, let it rip, potato chip.
I like that. I like the idea of, like, the alien pulls the mask off and it's Jesus.
Oh man!
All these people are like, oh no.
No, I know. That's what it's gonna be like, right? It's just gonna be like, come on, dudes.
Well, that's what like, I think.
It's not that serious. So, what were you gonna say, Mike? Now that you can drive and talk.
Yeah, except Grim doesn't like it. There is. I think there is something about that. I don't know, the whole thing of, like, material and immaterial. Like, I almost think now, like the death of God was a way for the people in charge of the material world to get a big advantage, and they played their cards. And now I think that they are realizing that they can't do it, like, on materialism alone. So they need to reintroduce the supernatural, which to me almost makes it seem like we should almost go back to trusting the material more. Like, as Christians, like, instead of just being like, yes, now there's spiritual things going on, like, go back to the material, because it's like, I see people behind all this stuff. Like, even, when, like, now I've become super suspicious about all the, like, Book of Enoch stuff, how that's getting so popular. Because we know, like, from history, there's lots of gods that were people. Like, Caesar was a god, Pharaoh was a god. So when people are saying, like, sons of gods, or, like, and having it to be, like, I don't know if how much of it is like, oh, it's actually a thing that's different from a normal human, or if it's a normal human that has convinced other humans that it's a superhuman or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then it's almost like the skepticism will defang it and will take the power of the disclosure away. or like here's one. When they have that big statue of gold and all in Babylon, and Nebuchadnezzar takes all the people out there, and he says like, everybody bow down, and all the people bow down except for the three guys. And like, I think, maybe you go to Sunday school and they say it's because those people believe in idols or whatever, and like want to be like they're true believers. But I think it was actually none of them believed that was a God, but they were all like, if we are willing to say that this one guy is God, then that means someday we could be God too. And that's like, it's like it's choosing the lie that you prefer over the like truth that
just like a magic trick.
Well, we're not getting too far.
So that's what I was going to say.
That time is fast approaching because we have people that are starting to talk to AI more than people, and they worshiping AI more than they care about people. And so we're, as far as us making ourselves gods or creating a god ourselves, we're heading down that road as well. And by we, I mean society.
Well, yeah, I also think, like, I was just thinking, like, in a way, material skepticism is a better argument for some of the stuff they're rolling out about AI and stuff. They're trying to come out and go, well, you can't even prove that you have consciousness, so the AI is conscious, But in a way, it can seem to me like a material argument is almost better, because you can materially, there's a lot of difference between you and the AI. Right? But on the more abstract realm, it's harder to say. It's like, well, it generates sentences and words, and you generate sentences and words. So see, you're identical, But it's like, well, it runs on a data center somewhere, and like I work like this, and there's no proof that it, like, and so I think that's kind of interesting. But I was just, I agree with a lot of what Mike was saying, because, well, I was just thinking Taylor Swift's a Nephilim. Like, come on, she's a hybrid. She's a hybrid person, because there's a real person, and we all know that, right? But then she's a god.
And she has a lot of status.
Yeah. So come on.
And people care about what she cares about.
That's why I said all the influencers are gods in like a pantheon, and they all have the same specialties. There's like, Aphrodite is on OnlyFans, and Ares is,
when like a celebrity is such a material and immaterial together.
Yeah, so I mean, well, that's where I almost think, like, because it's almost like, because I think you could even say like the church became its own stumbling block, and then it was like God with like Nietzsche and the death of God. It was like God chose to have the death of God, because the people who claimed to believe in God were like, basically they were like, hey, we have this rent-seeking, subscription-based thing going really well here. Like, this is great, and they were like, in control. I mean, so, I mean, and it's funny because it's even the same thing that, the church just basically became the thing that it had overthrown. Because, like, when you look at Rome, Rome was built on the family, like, very much, like that's what Paul was talking about with his thing, the pater familias and all this stuff, like the father as like the god of the household. And then at a certain point, basically very similar to our own current like economic circumstance, like the wealth started just the kind of like middle class hope, because it used to be like, join the legion, serve your term, you get your own plot of land, you will be a Roman citizen, you can start your own family, you've arrived at that point. But then it's like it became, the rich got richer, and then the payout wasn't as good. And then what the empire did was they started to make laws that either, some of them penalized people for remaining single, and other ones were like incentives for getting married, because not enough people are getting married. And what it did was nothing. because basically the only people that it affected was the people who were like already on the fence, and then there was like an incentive, so they're like, well, might as well. But it didn't make anybody want to get married anymore, because once they do that, then you realize, oh, this isn't about me becoming a god or me becoming, a citizen. It's about what I can do for the state. I don't care about the state. The state's not. So it reveals that the state is like a false god that people have been serving, and then it loses its appeal, like, because it's revealed. The mechanism is revealed, and so I mean that's the thing. It's like that people always are. Yeah, we're always pouring into these idolatrous visions, but it is also the way that God like moves things forward. So I mean, the trick really, I think, is just for Christians to have enough imagination to like figure out the better thing first before it has to go through, the weird secular alien version of the thing. So
It's like phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. It's we'll see what comes out at the other end in about 5-10 years.
What happens when earth-shattering, awe-inspiring miracles become normative or normalized? And it's like this idea of like affluence. Like when you're new to it, you're very grateful for the affluence that you've been blessed with. And then as you go on into the generations, just becomes a part of the woodwork, and you don't even think about it anymore because it's just there. And so those true earth-shattering miracles just become like, who cares? And I think that's kind of what I think that's where we're at right now. And miracles like LLMs or things like this. That's a miracle. It's like it's driven by a lot of this stuff. I think is kind of downstream or borderline late stage individualism, and so it's the frame at which that's going to have to get broken, the frame that we're in order for us to really use it with wisdom and with gratitude. But even then, we're moving at such a ridiculous rate right now, where it's just like, oh, it's here, and who cares, and like it's like. So I don't know if I'm making any sense there, but I do think it's something about.
Yeah, and I do want to say something now that you mentioned that, Chad, as far as because we are moving at such high speed as far as the rate of change, and we are. I think if we're not careful, the next generation, like our kiddos, might be worse off if we're not careful. And because what I see, and this is something that we've seen. Where everybody's become tribal, right? Where Christians are arguing with Christians because they want to back up their own tribe, and it's like Orthodox, Catholics, Protestants, and then within Protestants, and it was like, what? And so we're going to try to. So we're fighting. We're trying to break the containers, right? We're trying to say, no, I don't really believe in your container. And what we're doing is we're causing all this friction, and our kids are watching this and seeing this. And then we're going to be gone, and they're going to take after. And like I said, I don't think it's a good idea to break all these containers for the next generation to be growing up without containers or without doubting every container. Because like I said, the rate of change is moving fast. And people need structure. They need institutions. Yes, they're not perfect, but there's no such thing as perfect anything. The only thing that's perfect is God. And so aside from that, there's nothing that's perfect.
I think it's likely that the next generation that the next generation in the West will have it worse. I think it's highly likely, and it's very unfortunate. but it's also a matter of I think it's a matter of perspective too, you know. So there's going to be some stuff lost in the bathwater. Then there's also going to be, who knows? Who knows, really?
You
guys talk. I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
grab
here's
some
the thing,
pizza.
because I understand like saying that we need the structures and the institutions. Like a lot of people say that. I think that's true in a sense. I think it's worth putting your energy into that. But more important than that, I think, is and this is what I want to do for my children. Teach them how those structures and institutions work, how you make them. Because, actually, if you think about it, there's always this great energy when you have a collapse and then you have something start new. With the Protestant Reformation, there was so much life in it because they had to figure things out from scratch. And then it's once it gets all, once it turns into this thing where we've got all this doctrine and we have all this tradition, and then as it's more and more to pass on, that's hard. So I feel like, yes, we need something, maybe it's like what Paul Allen talks about, universal basic institution. It's like we need to figure out that simple version of a thing where you don't have to be super rigid about it has to be exactly this interpretation, but maybe you have to say, well, it has to have these elements. It has to be about people. It has to be about life. It's not about, consumerism. But I feel like more so than passing the institutions to our children is giving them the skills to be able to solve problems, because we don't know what the future is going to be. The more problem solving skills you have, the better equipped you are. But
Yeah, to build in the spirit of Romans chapter 14.
What, sum it up, because I don't have it memorized off the top.
So Paul begins by correcting Christians because it seems like they're fighting within one another, and he's saying, the vegan is really concerned about what he eats, so he doesn't want to offend God, so he becomes vegetarian. So he doesn't. The concept is he's not going to eat meat sacrificed to idols, and he's like, but the meat eater is also eating meat that's not sacrificed to idols, but he's still a meat eater. But the problem is not about who's eating meat and who's not. The problem is that they're making the other person be like themselves. So no, you vegetarians should eat meat, just not meat. You know what I mean? So they're fighting amongst themselves. And then then it gives the example as far as one keeps Wednesday, one keeps Saturday, one keeps all days, one keeps no days, and they all are doing it to the Lord, for the Lord. And he says, why are you judging another man's slave? Meaning you're not Christ, right? They belong to Christ. What are you doing? And so it's a big correction take as far as don't be trying to force someone to think like you think. If they're doing it for the Lord and you're doing it for the Lord, let that be enough, right? Right? Let God fix it within themselves, right? God knows what he's doing, but we are the ones that mess things up because we want to make the other like me. You see what I mean? The problem of the others, the problem with the others that they're not me, and that's the problem, and that's the universal conflict of, but anyways, that's my take on Romans chapter 14.
So
what was Ezra going to say?
So oh yeah, please do. Sorry,
I forgot.
I'll eat one.
It's just when you were talking, Michael, about how to raise our kids. I remembered you at South Estuary, and I think you were wearing a shirt with Bandit on it.
Oh yeah,
from
my
Bluey.
Cool Dad shirt.
And so I was just thinking of like Bluey, like Bandit on Bluey.
Yeah.
That's how you raise the kids to prepare for any contingency. Because that's kind of what I see on that show. But yeah, back to kind of what Chad was talking about the what can we affect in this sort of spiritual realm? That's actually what I see the point of TLC being is like, with this spirit of true friendship that we try to honor here or whatever. That affects the cosmic background religion of the world, and that's your best bet on changing the future is through that the spirit of the times, I think.
Yeah.
Also, part of that
you
is-
know what? I was gonna. You go first. Okay. Well, so that's what I'm going to say. Why they have to put out some new like supernatural thing? Because the whole material project, like the post-Nietzschean Christianity, that's this is like post-Nietzschean Christianity, essentially, as I would say it, is like, even if you think like there's no supernatural and like the Bible is a fiction book that somebody wrote, it's like the best way to be human is to just believe it anyway and like, live this life. So it's like, okay, well, if the claims of materialism has just basically like, well, our evolution has brought us to the point of Christianity is the answer. So then it's like, well, now we need aliens, because at least that's something that's from outside the box that can knock people off their game.
I think there was always. Here's probably what seems to happen. I think if I have to look at, you got to go back to the garden and look at what happened with Adam and Eve, and there's always been. Seems like there's always been some sort of like spiritual capture the flag has always been the game, and what we don't realize is like it's not them trying to capture the flag. It's me. That them is within me, and I think that I have the capacity, and because I don't think that Eve or Adam thought, let's just be evil or something. I'd probably imagine that they had some very strong and good reasons that they believed what they were doing was proper. That's my take on the thing, and that was a mistake, obviously, and maybe a necessary mistake.
Well, I think the story of the Garden of Eden is it introduces an alien form, right? Some thing that's not a person talks with Adam and Eve and gets them to doubt. They're like, did he really? So it's the whole question. You have to question reality. You have to question what was said, and it's like, so is that maybe this other thing is right? The whole doubt, and again, it's something that's not a person saying, did God really say that? Nah, he just doesn't want you to, because etc. Wants you to be like him, to be a God, to know good and bad, and maybe the reason why things are happening now is because the AI will translate what the aliens are saying, and therefore, it'll be like, here you go, and it'll be the alien talking through the AI, translating, saying, did God said something else, and here, eat this, and here's the apple all over again. And
yeah, well, I think maybe what Chad was saying at the beginning is, I think in some ways, God knows all the ways that we're going to hear things wrong, and He's kind of working to make all of our misinterpretations all work out accurately anyway. Because I looked at that story, and you can read it so many different ways, even. Because now, the where I'm at with that now is, I don't even think, so first of all, you say, oh, well, Eve was right because she said she was deceived, but she wasn't deceived by the serpent, I don't think.
I think she was deceived by Adam first, because when you look at the thing that she says, when the serpent asks her, you can tell by the language, the parts that she's quoting or whatever, that she has heard this message from Adam. God gives the warning to Adam. Eve's not even made yet when he gives the warning, and then there's that extra line about like, and don't even touch it. And so when Eve got this message, she got it from Adam, and she got it from him in a spirit of fear. And then the serpent comes along, and he's not pitching fear. He's pitching don't fear. And most of the time, if you look through the Bible, what the message that God is saying, it's don't fear.
Work out your salvation
so
with fear and
there's something
trembling.
in us that recognizes. Yep, yeah, there you go. There's your one. But how many times does he say fear not? Like, and is there fear? Is there fear in love, or is there no fear in love? Because perfect love casts out all fear.
And the other weird,
Yeah, but he says, but there's a distinction, Michael. He says to not fear when he's present because he's all powerful. But when you're out there trying to amongst people, then that's when he says, be careful. Be careful. Do not be deceived, right? Do not be deceived. Whoever has ears to hear, let him hear.
Sure. Well, but you didn't say that to Adam and Eve. So, I mean, we can't fault them for what they didn't know. But let me just put it this way. So the devil said, whatever Satan says or the serpent says, it was only the serpent. That's all it really says. But, you will be like gods. Why is that a bad thing that Eve would want that? I would say that is ultimately what God wants for humanity. But, he became man so man could become God, that kind of whole thing. That is what the point of that we would be like him so that we can know him. Then really, and then you have Adam. So she takes it. She's got a lot of reasons why she shouldn't be really considered in trouble. And then she gives the fruit to Adam, and he takes it, and he takes it, I think, because he remembered the world without Eve and with Eve. It was not good when he was alone. It was better when he was alone. So I think him taking the fruit from her, sticking with her was the right thing to do. I think. The real problem is when he then gets up and says, it was the woman, and throws her under the bus. That's his major sin. Because then he's cutting himself off from his flesh. She is flesh of his flesh and bone of his bone. He's creating this division, and he's not wanting to face that death that he's running away from. So, and that's kind of like shows you a pattern of motivation that goes through the whole thing. Man wants the blessing of equality with God, but he doesn't want to face the consequence. And then, then you have Christ comes, and then the vision of what it means, what equality with God means, changes, because then it means, oh, you're going to die, and you're going to die of, a painful death. So then, to grasp equality with God after Christ comes means you're taking on his life. So it's really just about whether or not man has a proper understanding of what it means to be equal with God. Because God always wanted man to be equal with him. He didn't, but if man thinks that God is a mean, all-powerful, like brutal tyrant, then him wanting to be like that is not good.
Well, I think that the whole concept is that how do we get there, right? And Michael, you did say that maybe God wanted eventually, right? The word eventually. Maybe God did eventually want him to eat from both trees, but maybe it was the how to. Maybe he was supposed to eat from the tree of life first, understand what he needed to understand, know God the way he needed to know God, and then he could eat from the other tree. But he botched it by not listening to him, because it's the how-to, right? Maybe it's the he wasn't ready for the how-to, and it was in time he would have been shown. But the glitch is the serpent. But then again, some people say, well, no, the serpent was there. The serpent was a created being too. So the serpent is not a glitch. The glitch is, I guess the glitch is always what the glitch is. The problem is choice. So, quoting the Matrix, the problem is choice. Adam and Eve, they had to choose, and that's where, that's where things go sideways. Eventually, we have to make a choice, and we're back to square one. Oh man, what should I choose?
Well, not choosing anything is the worst choice. That's the thing. I mean, God can fix a bad choice. He can't fix no choice. I think that was probably what Chad was, talking about with that, where he can't even do miracles in his hometown. If you don't even conceive of anything that can possibly happen or change or whatever, yeah. So, and I think that, like, I don't think of it as like things went wrong, or it's like or if God imagined the world where like it didn't go wrong, that was like kind of a boring world, or it was very easily resolved, and it wasn't worth exploring in some ways. Like I think that we live in like the hard mode, because that's the world where God's redemption means the most. Like, so.
But
I mean, yeah,
we are
in
given.
some ways, it's like
we are given certain stories. Before redemption came the flood. So I mean, there's that in between, So yes, redemption came, but there was a whole lot of history before that. There was kind of rough. Things were very rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we probably don't, and we probably deceive ourselves by not recognizing how rough it was. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, because when you shelter people, like, okay, if you shelter people, you can get them to not like break the really dangerous rules sometimes. But then, like, what kind of a person are you creating? And that's why I think it's like God wants the person that's the most difficult to win. That's the person he prizes the most in some ways. I mean, and it's good if you're a happy person who says, I'm just going to trust God from a young age. That's actually, that's a really good way to go. But God, that's not the only kind of person that God values. He
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Good job, honey.
Want to do it again? Okay, here we go.
Sorry, I had to share that one. It's been a while since I'd seen that. So, I don't know. I think we got like way off. I know the topic was way out there, but I think we are way off topic somehow.
Yeah, Let's bring it back to aliens and disclosures and movies and AI.
No, I'm not talking about aliens. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, no, because to me, it's not about aliens. I don't give a shit about aliens. What I care about. My primary thoughts are about the world that we see and live in, and and I don't think that you guys were completely off track on talking about the about God and all that stuff. I'm not. That has very much to do with this, but I'm also wondering what our role is in the world that we steward, I guess, being stewards, and where does when Ezra was talking about the immaterial, and I just wonder where in the stack of reality does our consciousness and our desires and also the world we see and the world we think we see, how does it shape the world? And I think that's the topic. And for me, it's and I think, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe we played it out. Maybe we wrung this out. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Can I say something real quick, chat, about that?
Go ahead.
So I was when I was driving my kid to his work, I was watching a video, and I was driving. Since I had him there, I had him write down a notion from the conversations because I didn't want to forget the notion later. And he's like, should I just write down the whole thing? I said, no, just say a phrase. Just write down a phrase so I can remember the concept. And he paraphrased it, and this is what he said. He said, oh, this is the popular table in the cafeteria paradigm conundrum. And so that's what he wrote. And when it comes to how we steward, how other people steward, and how we calibrate things, there's a notion where it says that we create our notion as far as what's important or what to seek at a young age, and that's because my kid's in high school, and meant the way he paraphrased that conversation, I thought it was great. So, and this is what I'm saying is, pretend that you're say a sophomore in high school, and you just moved to a new school, big metro area, and it's lunchtime, first lunchtime, and you're just you don't have no friends because you're brand new, first day, and then you get your food, and you're like, oh, because now you got to decide where you're gonna sit, and there's all these people, and everybody has different, all we can see is the outside, right? So they're dressed differently. Some appear to be goths, some appear to be jocks, some appear to be geeks, lack of a better word. Some appear to be rockers, some, whatever it is. And some people, you're like, I don't even know what, I guess just, so the question is like, if you were that one kid in a brand new school, where would you sit? Is question number one. Where would you actually sit? And two, if you could sit anywhere you wanted and maybe try to make friends at that table. So the second question would be like, where would that table be if you could sit there, if they would allow you to sit there and not punch you in the face, so as a metaphor. So, what is desired, what is real, what is our hierarchies of values. I think we get these all, even when we're at a young age, we're trying to figure it out. And that's one of those thought experiments. Say that's a new kid and I don't know anybody. Anyways, does that make any sense as far as what I'm trying to say, Chad, or am I way off as far as how to...
I want to speak on that. So what you just said relates to what just happened in a very profound way. because, you know, I'm not picking on you, Michael, but like Alex just demonstrated a practical problem that a person encounters in their life pretty much all the time. But Michael was speaking on something that was very impractical, meaning I don't think like sort of very high level exegesis of a most likely metaphorical story at the beginning of the Christian Bible, like, really helps you determine anything in your practical life. And like, I have found that that kind of analysis, when applied to practical life, actually disables you from being an effective agent rather than enabling you. Now there's a spectrum, like, don't sit at the table that's on fire. But other than that, doing this endless analysis, as I was raised to do, actually hurt my chances of success rather than raise them. Because everything, you know, every decision we make has a certain amount of risk. And, you know, one of the things that has, you know, there are certain aphorisms that get thrown around, and one of them is like, what's the worst that can happen? And I think that's actually a pretty bad aphorism for me personally. For some people it works quite well because they don't think that deeply about things, but I'm very neurotic. And if you ask someone who's neurotic, or let's just say someone who's mindful, right, because those are two sides of the same coin, what's the worst that can happen? Well, I can imagine a lot, you know, the atoms in my body can just spontaneously decoalesce, or a meteor can strike me on top of the head, my head will explode, you know, like, I can imagine all, you know, the American fiat currency will collapse and I won't be able to buy lunch and I'll starve, you know, like, when I say these things, most people look at me and say, Tim, that's ridiculous. That would never happen. But there is a, you know, non-nil probability that they could happen. And when we go, or when I go down this rabbit hole of like, well, this kid is wearing this shirt and my parents would never let me listen to that band, and so I probably shouldn't sit at that table because if I then develop a relationship with this kid, there's most likely friction in the future. It's like, just pick a seat and sit there, you know, because the time that you're wasting thinking about what God wants, or what the best thing to do is, what the optimal role is, what the meta is time that you're not sitting at the table, not eating your lunch, not striking up a conversation, not practicing your social skills, and not learning anything about the people around you, or the getting on with your life. And like, you know, I come back to that phrase in the Bible, which, you know, I'm not a Christian, right? But like, I come to that phrase in the Bible of, when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was cold, you gave me, you know, clothes. When I was unsafe, you gave me shelter, etc. Whatever. It's, you know, paraphrasing, but it didn't say, when I wrote confusing words in a book that was retranslated 1,000 times, you spent your entire life picking apart a single verse. It doesn't say that. And nowhere can you interpret any line in the Bible in that spirit. Everything points to the former, of like, feed the hungry, clothe the cold, shelter those who are unsafe. And if you focus on that, your day will be over most days before you can even get to the endless analysis. So when it comes to the alien question, or the epistemology around extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, non-human intelligence, etc. Like the non-human intelligence that I encounter most days is my dog, and I recognize its consciousness for what I can understand. I also understand that I can't fully understand it, and yet, like, I find myself able to experience distress over not being able to understand it. Does he actually love me? Does he know that when I restrict his behavior or I arrest his behavior in some way that I'm actually trying to help us both? And I need to not go down those roads because they're not helping me, and thereby they're not helping him. Now, if he yelps out in pain, or maybe he's in pain, maybe he's not. Maybe that's just his singing voice. I don't know. But most of the time I'm going to try to align that he's in some sort of discomfort and ask myself whether there's a good reason for that and can I make it stop. If he's headed towards a busy highway and I need to activate his e-collar on the high setting because he's not paying, he's not responding to the normal setting, he's going to yelp, and therefore that one was okay. I don't need to, I don't need to feel bad about that. And he needed to feel that so he doesn't get run over by a car. But that's the practical application. And I think that, God would not want us to then spend the rest of our night poring over the Torah as to whether or not I need to answer for the sin of shocking my dog in eternity. And I'll take my question off the air. Thank you.
Well, I would, it's interesting that you brought that parable for Matthew up about the clothing the naked and all that stuff, because what I did was, to go through, because I say a lot of people have the thing of reaching out to somebody and then you experience pain or rejection, and that's what makes people less willing to do that. And then you have to understand why. So it's interesting because I took that parable about giving water and food and clothing, and I went through the book of Genesis and I looked at all the times when somebody was doing any of those things, and then I would say, apparently that person is the person you can trust or whatever. And then I kept going through the story and looking at them in different ways. And when you hear about things in Sunday school, maybe you hear about who's there's a bad guy in a lot of those stories. Maybe Eve's the bad guy. Adam, Eve, the serpent, they could all be the bad guy. Cain's definitely the bad guy. Esau is definitely the bad guy. There's some other bad guys. And then I kept looking through those things and then looking at them from why did the people do the things that they were doing? And then I realized when I examined it from different angles, the bad guys all stopped appearing. They all disappeared. And there was just people. And so in studying that and going over those stories, it's made it easier for me to then go back out and approach my neighbor and offer them, hospitality or whatever it is. Because now I know that if they hurt me, if they reject me, if they say something that makes me feel uncomfortable, it's probably because of something else that happened in their life that they're just reacting to, and I don't have to take it personally and all that stuff. So, so that's why I study those stories in those ways, and maybe just trying to discern the most basic motivations or what's going on. And because I guess the thing that I'm most worried about is that it's all, when there's somebody that you can point to as the bad guy, that's bad. It ends up being bad for that person, and a lot of times they don't deserve it. So I'm Yeah. I'll leave it there.
What's up, Cosmic?
Hey, how's it going? I got
Going. Good to
interested
see
in
you.
being in
Very
here.
good to see you.
I like that this is kind of practical because it's bringing up two things that have recently sort of been working in my life. One being figuring out what it means that Christ is fully human, because like the divinity part is what confuses me a lot in terms of like that's not what fully human is. I mean, fully human means I can't possibly fix my problems just with a wave of the hand, and that's the experience. And so I think what I've finally gotten closer to is really seeing like, blessed are those who cry, because God is sharing the grief. We are performing the grief for God. He needs to put it somewhere. And he can't, it's just like on the individual basis, like I can't repress my grief forever. I have to face it. And so on a cosmic scale, I'm not just facing it for my own good, I'm facing it for everyone's good. I'm doing my part. I'm not saying I'm solving everyone else's. I'm just saying that when I do it, I demonstrate the behavior, and this is the other part, the demonstration. I demonstrate the behavior that if everyone does it, that is love. So facing grief directly and not being afraid of it, I'm finding is actually really way more doable than I ever gave it credit for. And I feel God kind of like coming to me more easily when I face the fear part of the grief and then face the grief. So this idea of like, what do you do when you're a kid in school, and how do you teach a kid to understand this, where do you sit down thing? Like everyone's got a different family situation, and it brings up the question for me of like, what's God up to with all these different families? Like I ran into someone from my church who told me a story about like meeting a girlfriend and being at dinner at her place or breakfast, and it was waffles. So apparently they had some kind of ritual around the waffles where, the first one gets cooked and then it's brought out on a plate and it's passed around. And the idea is like, you take the waffle, but you don't take a whole waffle, you cut it up into pieces. And so this guy didn't know that, and he wasn't told that. And so the father passes him the first waffle, the head of the household, kind of, right? And he's trying to impress this guy because it's a girl he likes. And he takes the first waffle after he says like, no, someone else can have it. And the father insists. He takes the waffle. And then the father says something kind of shameful and about like, oh, I guess he's really hungry, rather than just like sharing the experience. And so it's mind-boggling to me is this guy's older than me, and he's still holding on to this. Like he's as mad as he was at that morning still. And so now I'm trying to put this in the frame of God of like, well, God, okay, something's going on with that guy, and something's going on with this person from my church too, because obviously he hasn't learned something in 40 plus years or however long this was. But to set it aside probably would have been good. And maybe that's the whole point. So then the real question is, what business is of his mind, how people navigate that lunchroom. Like, I did it my way, which was not super useful because I was aloof and weird. And I eventually learned that being aloof and weird is not what I want in the world. I want to demonstrate inviting and friendly. And so if someone's a little spiky to me, I got to just like weather that without being spiky back. And now I know a lot more of where that comes from. Like I inherit that from Central Asia. And, like if you want to know why there's a war in Ukraine, I can explain it in feelings that involve a lunchroom. So, yeah, I mean, like I just like, in my opinion, let go. It's God's mission. It's too complicated for me. And on a practical level, if something's uncomfortable, then I address that. And that's what I'm called to do, is to share my part of what God suffers on all our behalf.
Yeah, there's something I'd like to say regarding that, because there's something I've learned that I think I honestly wouldn't have been able to see until I experienced it. And by that, I mean fatherhood, because I had a particular worldview, and I was really, really, really 100% sold on this is the best way to live. This is, all my values and ethics and all the stuff. I thought I had it down, and it changed drastically when I became a parent. And then I started learning scripture, and then my mind frame changed again. So I'll summarize like this. I now see a lot of things. So I've changed because now I see a lot of things as if I'm the toddler and God is the parent, right? Because as a toddler, it's easy to understand why a toddler wants perfection, wants, like everything to be nice. I never want to be grounded, says the toddler. I want to eat ice cream all day, every day, ice cream and chips all the time because it's so good, right? The toddler, in a sense, is being genuine, saying, I want nice. I never want to be in trouble. And all I want to eat is chips, ice cream, and soda, right? And the parent looks at the notions like saying, my kiddo, you have no idea, right? But you will mature someday, right? And that's the whole hope, right? One day we will be good stewards. And so, but the toddler will not get it until they do mature. So the toddler, if they stay as a 2-year-old, they're gonna be really frustrated with life's imperfections and not being able to eat ice cream all the time whenever he's around other people. He's like, so what's for dinner? Chicken and potatoes. Oh, what about ice cream? Sorry, you know what I mean? So my concept changed big time, even when I thought I knew better. And it wasn't until I experienced fatherhood, and then it changed again. Like I said, I'm repeating myself now. And it changed again when I started learning scriptures, because now I see a lot of things as if I have to change. Okay, where am I in the story? Oh, I'm like that 2-year-old that thinks things ought to be a certain way. And then the one that has more experience, God, he'll say, well, actually, this is what I want from you, right? As a parent saying, well, I know you want chips and ice cream for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner, but how do you teach the toddler that that's not the best way year in, year out, for the rest of your life to just eat chips, ice cream, and soda, and to never get put in trouble because of misbehaving as a toddler, right? So that's what I'm saying. The hope is, I hope that one day I'm mature enough that I can see through God's eyes and understand the way life is supposed to be through his perspective, because in many ways I'm still like that toddler.
I mean, it's interesting because, like, I sort of hear this tacit trade-off between, like assuming that you're not just going to know and you shouldn't eat chips and ice cream, and the way you'll find out you shouldn't is you do it and you get sick or you get unhealthy, or as the parent you introduce potentially a social punishment, like you will disappoint me, it will be unpleasant around this house if you don't do what I tell you. I think it's pretty common. I know that was the way it worked in my house when someone tried to put me on rails. And I found that there's a lot of weird gotchas in my own behavior. Like, I can put up with quite a bit, which you would think is good for the sake of patience. Like, to be patient when you're uncomfortable is a real asset around, like, being polite when you're out or obeying rules or whatever. But I've also noticed that it can come up with, like, especially my physical life, and now that I work with a computer, like, I can tolerate being uncomfortable in front of the computer and not going outside and not looking at the sun and seeing things far away instead of up right in front of my face. And I can tolerate it for so long that by the time I go out.
That was strange. Can you guys still hear him? Okay. So by the time he goes out, and then you just went out.
Yeah, it's interesting he was bringing up the thing about punishment, because that was what I was thinking. Even I was thinking about how, like, you could do a thing like, give your kid like one piece of candy, and you're like, we only have one, make it a big rule, like only one candy or whatever. And then, like, but at some point, like, but then you're stuck with like, okay, now if I only said one, what do I do when they eat two? Then do I have to punish them? And then you are setting up like an arbitrary punishment, or like I don't think it makes sense to the kid. Maybe it does. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I think what I think about is like, I can see how there's some value in that, of being like, I'm training the child to just trust me for when but that's something you have to be really, really, really careful about. Because if I'm going to train my kids to just trust me because I'm the father, then I have to pick the times when, because if they find out that it's just trust me, and then they eat 10 pieces of candy and they don't get sick, or if I have a little stomach ache, then they're going to be like, what the heck was that all about? So it's like, at some point, yeah, I don't know. It's trick. It is a lot of tricky stuff. What's interesting thing is like God doesn't do that much in the Bible. Like, God only steps in and like really takes hold of things every once in a while. He lets people do a lot of their own mistakes. So
yeah.
Well, I think it also
what's up,
is
fella?
Hello guys. Hello chat.
Hello,
Michael.
I'd love your thoughts on what we've been talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot to add about that, because it's something that I'm thinking about and pondering on for many, many decades. I can remember myself being like a teenager and thinking about this type of stuff. And generally speaking, first of all, concerning the UAP thing, just to get it out of the way, I don't believe in UFOs, like aliens. I don't believe they are out there. That's my personal view, but my personal opinion. But I do believe that something is happening in the air. I don't know, in the night sky. So there is definitely something going on there. My best guess will be like the drone sightings that were happening in United States like a year ago or something like that. It's like some sort of future tech that is being tested by the military industrial complex. And yeah, so to me, this is something that it's already institutionalized in a way that you need to get a permit to run this type of trials into the wild. So yeah, I think the whole UAP thing is interesting as a phenomenon that captures the imagination and the conversation of the culture at different moments in time. So yeah, and the last thing on this topic will be something that not a lot of people know about Jung. Jung wrote many books, but his last book in the 50s, it was about the UFO phenomenon. So it's one of the few books by Jung that I never got into, but I know that it's there. It's interesting because he approached it as a psychological phenomenon that captures the Z case, how they call it, and all of that. So yeah.
Well, interesting. So like, I don't actually have, there's not a large distinction between ghost and alien for me. As far as category of, I don't know, a misreading or something. But I guess my question for you, Ups, is what is your thoughts on the idea of, but I like the idea, you used imagination, but like, let's say how powerful a collective imagination is to change, to directing what it is that we eventually come to see and experience as real.
It's super powerful, the collective imagination, and those that are able to tap into it and modify it in a practical way, those, to me, they are the real magicians. What you guys were speaking before, that was stage magicianship. It was like entertainment. The guys that really do the magic is the people, the writers, that they can write a short story, for example, or whatever, a poem, and they can influence like 4 generations after them. So there's something there. And also in recent times, man, we have cinema. Cinema is like it captures the collective imagination, like in a very raspy way, in a sharp way. And it's not only that, there is also other type of phenomena that captures the collective imagination. Like, for example, I know that you also like listening to these reaction videos of people reacting to new songs and new artists and all of that. Man, I found very recently a new artist called Mafra, Maphra. And random YouTuber started uploading videos from a studio singing, doing cover songs. People, they really, and this is very telling in terms of what the LLMs are doing to us and the AI. People, they really believe that it was AI. They were convinced that it was AI, but it wasn't AI. It was like an actual normal human being that she was very passionate about what she was doing in terms of singing and performing and like cultivating the art of singing. And she's a really good man. And she very recently, she provided proof to the disbelievers that they were saying that she's so good, she must be AI. One of the bands that this lady covered a song of them, they invited her on a live gig. So they had like their moment there. And I like that type of stories, It's very, it's inspirational, and I know it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with, it doesn't have the gravitas of theological discussions, but it's, it's happening. It's happening on the internet. That is the medium that we are all swimming in. So,
The question about I think I wasn't trying to necessarily bring theological, because I don't really know much about that. I just have like my experience with pondering different things. Like, so one of the I guess I want to ask you what are your thoughts on, let's say, have you read the book They Flew Ups? And if so,
no,
okay.
But I hear everyone in TLC mentioning it all the time, so it must be interesting. Yeah.
Well, there's this. Okay, I'll just ask you kind of like, so when I hear stories out of that book, stories about Joseph of Cupertino or Teresa of Avoca, I don't know how to say that, but there were thousands and thousands of accounts given that they witnessed these people levitating and or bilocating or stuff like this. And I don't know, I just felt like, and I still feel like, that makes perfect sense, and that it wasn't made up. I believe that these people are actually levitating. And one of the things that that kind of makes sense to me about some of that was the people of that time believed that something like that was entirely possible, and it wasn't out of the realm of possibilities. And because of that, I think that shared agreement made something like that possible. And I'm just wondering kind of what you think about something as fantastical as that.
Yeah, okay, that's great. That's great question. There is a reason we human beings are really fascinated by the stories we tell each other and the mythologies we inherited. So we know the myth of Icarus and Daedalus, right? There was a reason that that specific story got codified into the myth. And because of, I don't care, I'm going to use a technical term, because of mimetics, there is a reason that there is still, we are listening to that very same thing again and again, up to this day. And I'm not talking only about Neil using the Daedalus nickname. It's all over the place. You can find it in mega corporations called Icarus, for example, that they have to do with aviation. There is something, there is still power that it is trapped within that imaginal construct. There is a mythology around it, there is a narrative, and all of that has a factor that moves beyond the timeline of any human individual being. Like if something it's a story that is quote unquote fundamental or super important, it will propagate over the centuries, right? And it will take different forms. So when people they were going to the Colosseum back in Rome days, just to see the gladiators and all of that, it's the very same reason why people in Madrid they go to see bullfights, or why everyone is going to watch football or soccer or American football and whatever. There is this collective thing that is going on that is very difficult to describe, but if you experience it, you know what it is. There is something there that it's, I don't know, man. And what you said about levitation is the opposite side of gravitation. So, of course, it's part of our mythologies, like this dream, or even the honest pursuit of people, because many people over the centuries they try to achieve what we call levitation. Some people they more recently they were able to do it in terms of science. Like, let's find these specific ferromagnets, how they call them, that they are material that they can actually hover over or levitate over the ground. So I don't know. There is something in this arc of mythology, what we now call more recently science fiction, because that's like a form of the hypothetical that some group of people they reach out and then bring it down to reality. By Michael. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, man.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, I just find it fascinating, and I do think that it's beyond mere mythology or narrative or story. I think that there are things that, and I've even witnessed things that are beyond explanation. I don't know what to make of to that. But yeah.
Yeah. By the way, you heard about this artist, right? The Mafra.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I haven't listened to her because there's like a whole set of bands out there that have been dangled in front of me, and I just don't want to listen to any new music. So I just don't do it. So like, it's pretty rare. Like that. I mean, you see what happens when I find a band that I like. I just kind of go all in and just go crazy. And I already have like so many of them, and I'm very I step back on my heels when I see the algorithm trying to show me new artists. And so I just don't listen to them. I believe that she's good and all that. I'm very happy that people are interested in her and stuff. And the part of what happens there is interesting. It's like it has to do with the conversation. Actually, it's not only that they were saying that they believed she was AI or any of that. It's like it's the whole kind of package that unfolded out of that story. It's like, first of all, I never heard of this person at all. And then all of a sudden my whole feed is filled with images of this person and the story behind it. And I'm like, why are they trying to sell me this? You know? And
yeah. Okay, this is a proper argument, man. I agree with you, and I usually exercise self-control in pressing on things that the algorithm, especially the YouTube algorithm, serves to me.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some, I don't know, as a YouTuber user, I really believe that every YouTuber user over the years develops some kind of an internal compass when to be able to decide if something is worth watching or not for them specifically. I mean,
yeah.
And yeah, the only reason I pressed and listened to that lady is because I am familiar with a similar story that took place about 12 years ago here in my parts of the world. There was a YouTuber that he just started uploading songs on YouTube with a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and singing. It was his songs, not cover. And the guy, he really went viral and became like #1 star in Cyprus and Greece. So I will not get into the sad part of the story, but it was like a very high rise that could be felt because it originated from YouTube. And I think that this lady is something like that, but instead of the local level, she's doing it at the global level. So maybe it's organic growth. Like, I don't want to disqualify the specific artist or any artist because I think that she's a plant or something like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is always this chance that something magical happened and she made it. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case for this specific artist. I believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that she's nefarious or even any of those. It has to do with my inability to self-regulate with like what would you call it, moderation. So I'm just kind of like, typically I'll be like all or nothing. You know, same thing happened with Game of Thrones. Everybody was talking about how great Game of Thrones was for years and years and years, and I was like, I don't really care. Like I didn't. And then eventually I watched one episode, and I had to watch them all. You know, and that was years after the fact.
Yeah.
And so it has to do with something like that. So I just try to be careful because I'm like, do I really want to go down another? Do I want to go down the Bad Omens rabbit trail? Do I want to go down the, you know, the whatever the band is, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they're great, you know, but like so my YouTube delivers me like Drumeo like crazy. So I like Drumeo because I like to. That's always very fun for me to watch. I like the fact. I also think it's an interesting cultural phenomenon that drums have become so popular that a drum show can be as relevant as it is. I think that's pretty interesting. And
it's interesting, yeah. On that specific note, I had a similar thought, but not about Ramio, about that YouTube channel with the hot wings. Like, it never crossed my mind that something like that could be like a thing, you know.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
like, how is it that Rick Beato became like the next generation's MTV, or let's say the millennial or Gen X leftover MTV, Walter Cronkite for music? How did that happen? I don't understand how that happened, but it is interesting to me.
Yeah.
And he gets good interviews,
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. Who was that guy that he was doing a lot of rock interviews in the past? Very famous guy. I don't remember his name.
What? What interviews?
There was a radio host, I think, that he was very famous for doing interviews with musicians.
Okay. Was it on YouTube?
Yeah, eventually, yeah, it was also there.
I don't know. Was it Kasem? Casey Kasem?
No.
Okay.
No. Don't worry about it. I will figure it out.
All right.
I mean, a critical part of it is to be a good interviewer, and another critical thing is that the visuals of Beato, how they call him, they were much better than the previous guy. This is the point I was trying to make. Like he updated the visuals also. So yeah.
Yeah. So he's able to kind of tap into a previous kind of standard, mimetic standard or something. Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm really glad I got to get this out of my system. I don't know if it helped anybody, because I don't really know. Like, I wasn't coming on to try to solve anything, because I don't really know if it's solvable. But I guess what I wanted to do is kind of highlight this idea of what, can you look in your own story or in your own life where you've seen these sorts of kind of instances of the imaginal being breathed into life, and that's an interesting thing to consider. And so thanks for coming on and chatting. Thanks everybody for coming on and chatting. I think I'm gonna. You got anything else you want to share?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, because I was in a sad mood from, as I told you before, from what I found out. It was helpful to that. So thank you a lot, man.
Well, all right, man. Yeah, it is sad. But how are you doing otherwise?
I'm doing all right. I am getting ready to go to London in 10 days or so. Excited because I'm gonna meet some people there, like Teo and Jess and Jeff. That's cool. So
it's gonna be great.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna play a couple brandings, maybe doodle a little guitar, and then I'm gonna go vacuum the house and get ready for our thing tomorrow.
All right. I have a last thing before I drop. I really wanted to go and buy an acoustic guitar, because I don't have access to one. I have only an old electrical one that doesn't even work well. I cannot put it into the, So I'm gonna buy, I think, one this week, and maybe I will join you in one of these sessions. So thank you, man. Yeah, awesome.
All right.
Bye.
All right, brother. Have a good one. All right, let's see what we have. What is? Let's see. Different. Oh, maybe this. I haven't heard this for a while.
Noise on top of noise, above the dying and below the dead. Look at all this. Feed me eternal. Starve me the wounds. A glutton for nothing and everything subsumed. We must protect, so we say things like, kingdom come, while staving off the inclusive parasites who feed off your virtue and shit out contempt. We must protect. It is evil, call it what it is. Walking around with bloody shins from the jagged teeth of spiteful midgets, gnawing at the right again and again and again and again. Again. Either stomp them or lay down and give them your throat. What did you hope to do? Feed the noise with more noise in hopes to silence or soothe? Here's the thing. The tsunami is here. Brace for the end. There's no steering clear. There's being shaken or lulled by lullaby and by, but flood by fire and deceit and desire. And freedom from fear comes from being martyr by mire.
And I was thinking of entitling it "Pay to Play with PVK." Pay to play with PVK. Because that nicely rhymes with PVK. You get pay to play with PVK. You get pay to play PVK. Pay to play with PVK. You get pay to play with PVK. You get pay to play with PVK. But I have such church. I'm so comfortable with sort of the way church handles money. And I just don't know. I just don't know how to deal with this whole world.
There's this one.
Hello.
I like this one. Let's go back to that. All right, everybody. Have a good evening. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Good job, honey.
Want to do it again? Okay, here we go.